Doggy, it's time to polka your ass off.
Poking my what?
Your ass off.
Oh, okay, that's even worse.
It's our Oktoberfest edition of Radio Mofo. This is really the first one of these that we've been able to record during Oktoberfest, and probably the most sober that both of us have ever been during Oktoberfest, I think.
Oh yeah, some legendary drunken times back in the day.
It's really not like the old days where it lasted like a solid week. And I mean, I know some of it was basically because the city went to Oktoberfest in town is actually Oktoberfest USA. It's a business. When the city went to them and said, "Hey, we want some money to clean up the mess of this 4-hour parade and for the cops and cleaning up the puke downtown," and they basically said, "Well, hey, we bring a couple 100,000 people to town, kick rocks. We're not paying you." So the city said, "Okay, we're just going to shorten your permits to like, what is it, 4 days now, 5 days?"
No, it's like, the local police put a lot. I mean, they really clamped down, and they're just like, they're tired of all the drunken idiots, because there's like thousands of people that come from out of town to La Crosse just for this, just to get drunk and shitty. And Thursday night, already reports of like fights and stuff around different places.
Oh,
because
God.
people getting hammered right out of the gate before the first. And Oktoberfest was started decades ago to be more of a cultural celebration, and then it de-evolved into a drunken shitstorm.
Okay,
and, there's been efforts to try and pull it back.
I'm calling bullshit, and I have always done this when they say, "Oh, we want to make it more about heritage and everything." Okay, so we're gonna start off with the tapping of the golden keg. We don't want it to be about drinking, but we're gonna start with that. And then there's drinking during the parade. There's drinking during the concerts and stuff at the fest grounds. Let's face it, you're not gonna take away the drinking culture from that. It's just
No, but all you can do is tighten it up.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
it got bad when you drive through campus and you'd see like a random person passed out on somebody's lawn, or
I can guarantee that there is not a tree across that was unsprinkled the last few nights.
And the parking ramps were almost like Grand Theft Auto at bar time. Like there's like bumper cars, and I think the cops just kind of, I don't know, they waited till people actually made it out of town to start pulling them over, because it was impossible downtown when they shut down Third
Well,
Street.
yeah, they bring in sheriffs and all kinds of like other law enforcement and whatnot, but
I mean, the parade is fun. The one group, and I want to say that I think it was actually UWL guys. They had a house about halfway down the parade route, and they weren't actually in the parade, but it was a bunch of band guys, I think, and they would just hop in the parade with a bunch of old like beat up instruments, wearing weird outfits and stuff like that, and just turn into their own marching band. I think you must have seen them before.
Oh, probably.
There's like
this year there was only 100 units.
Yeah,
because you remember back in the old days, in our radio days, there was over 300 units. Plus, there was a pre-parade, and that's when the parade was 4 hours long.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's still people that camp out the night before for their spots. There used to always be that weird ass school bus that would show up in the station lot with like a upper deck, like rooftop bar built on the top of it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
because that's usually like on the causeway. Once you get over the viaduct where all the really heavy drinkers are.
The first time I actually,
the first half of the parade is, well, as I say, the first half of the parade is usually families, and then you cross that viaduct, and that's where the third circle of hell will be.
Yeah, that's where you've got people with kegs sitting there in the back of pickup trucks and stuff like that. But like the first time I went to
people trying to hangers or hand you Jello shots.
Yeah. You can't make it through the parade if you're on a float without getting some kind of stuff passed to you. But the first time I went to parade, actually, I went with a bunch of people from school, and we all thought we're gonna get there really early, so we got there at like dawn and got a decent spot. But the problem with that was like half of our group ended up so hammered that we had to actually like find a way to get them out of there. Like actually my girlfriend at the time was already she was the type that liked to cry and get really depressed when she was hammered.
Oh Jesus! Wow.
Yeah. So that kind of was a buzzkill.
Yeah, yeah.
Pro tip though, if you're gonna do Oktoberfest, you go to the parade, go down to the fest grounds, eat something, go home, take a nap, and then head downtown for the night. That's just something I think everybody needs to know to do because there are very few people that can make it the entire day.
Yeah, there's not a lot of folks can do a 6 hour straight drinking spree.
I mean,
At
like
least normal folks.
I get why they had to crack down on it though, because I mean, like when they closed Third Street and I was working downtown, I saw the worst riot slash fight of my life at bar time with people trying. There was one guy that was trying to tear down a stop sign right outside of the bar on the corner of Third and Pearl there, and he's shaking it back and forth, and a female officer taps him on the shoulder, and he just wheels around and punches her right in the face. But to her credit, she got up, kicked the guy's legs out, and hogtied him, and with one other guy threw him in the back of a cop car by herself. So she just kicked that guy's ass. But I mean,
oh my God,
the fights down there. I mean, I think at that time there was still some, rumblings about the Coon Creek riots that made national news. When cars
that's
got
when they
flipped
flipped over a cop cars.
Yeah, people were burning anything they could find, and actually, I wasn't there for that. I saw that on the news, and that's when I decided that I wanted to go to school there.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, as far as Oktoberfest memories, I worked downtown for a lot of them. So, I mean, we had to do things that we normally didn't do. Like we pulled all the tables out. No one was sitting. We were going to cram as many people in there as we could. The drink prices we raised all of them. We couldn't have any glassware. It was all paper or plastic cups. We had to take the pool cues and the balls out of the bar. That was a law or rule during the fest. So you couldn't, chuck those at anybody. And I think we even took out most of the chairs too. So everybody just had to stand. We had like those big tanks that they used to put cow feed or cattle feed in. The big metal things that we'd fill up with ice and just beer bottles, and there'd be just a girl standing there by the door just selling them one after another. And I mean that was like our Black Friday, was the first Friday of Oktoberfest.
Jesus.
Between that and New Year's. Do you have any like particular Oktoberfest memories that were weirder than others though?
I always remember there was that one parade. We were on a float and we drank up all of our beer waiting to go. And you and I had jumped off to stop into a quick trip to grab some stuff. We come out and the float's already moving.
Down the
We're
street.
just hauling ass down the road, jumping on that thing. That's
I remember the morning show guy Keith having a entire bottle of vodka that was gone before we even got the float moving. Before we were
that's because they got that special Bloody Mary mix from the news guy, and because he kept the recipe secret, but he would make up gallons of it for folks. And our old buddy Keith, back in his drinking days, could pretty much knock back that whole thing by himself, but he would share a little bit with folks if so inclined.
I think the secret that he claimed to at the time was that it was hangover proof. Like if you just drank that all day long, you wouldn't have a hangover the next day. But I would think it would be just more like red diarrhea instead. I don't know.
Okay.
I think, I remember chasing after the float. Actually, the main reason I remember jumping off the float was I had to pee so bad. I was pretty sure I was going to piss myself in front of a couple thousand people on that float. And
I remember that one year we were coming over the viaduct. That's where you have to turn all the sound and stuff off.
Yep.
And I say we jumped off and ran down the bridge to get to a porta potty right away so we could get back on, and the timing was just perfect.
Yeah, and there used to be I think there was a rule too that the marching bands couldn't actually like march in step over that bridge because they were concerned that they would take the bridge down. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but as far as like my Oktoberfest memories, it was things like DJing and attempting to try to get to the bathroom was next to impossible. So you had to find a really, that's when I would play a really long song. And we did this at the station too. You play a really long song like Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You're like, I've got 9 minutes to get there and take a pee. Let's see what happens. But we used to go to a little bar that opened at 6 a.m. on French Island called the Mug. All the service.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's for the third shifters.
Yeah, and all the service industry people used to go there, and the owner, the old fart that owned it, knew we all worked at bar, so he didn't care what we did. We'd go buy pizzas and use his oven and make our own drinks, and he made, we'd pay for everything. We were probably his best customer.
Yeah.
Mine was going there after doing massive bong rips in the parking ramp with a couple of guys. And we did the old, yeah, I'll follow you. That'll be the safe way to get to the Mug. We had walked from somebody's house at 6 a.m. over to the parking ramp and got our cars, which was just completely stupid. Driving down there, and then at some point must have decided to take a nap on the guy's pool table, and I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and ended up having to drive everybody that was still drinking home.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I passed out on a pool. I think I did that more than once, actually.
Well, I could think of worse places to pass out in a bar.
Oh, like the bathroom?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, or in the basement.
The worst. Absolute worst thing I ever saw during Oktoberfest. Boy, we're really not making a good name for this, are we?
Yeah.
Was when about 10 of the UWL football players all thought it would be hilarious to take a dump in the toilet one after another. And not flush it. And we used to have, of all people, we had Huber guys that came to clean the bar the next day for a while. And none of them would touch it. We ended up actually tearing the toilet out of the wall and throwing it in a dumpster.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, God. But somebody still had to handle it. Or just saran wrap it tight.
I wasn't there. I mean, I heard about it because I was working, at the time. I had to make the announcement that nobody can use that bathroom. You're going to have to go over to the other bar, which was really bad. But, yeah. I didn't actually know why until afterward when I was told. But
Jesus,
football players are weird. I don't know if that's not really that's not the kind of team building exercise that I want to be any part of. But you did the parade this year, right?
Yeah, so I went with my Shriner group, and literally everything that could go wrong, as far as people not showing up or equipment breaking down. At one point, my foot got run over by our trailer. So, yeah, it was just chaos, but we got through it, and we put on a good show, which is the most you can ask for. And we got back to the end and had a tailgate party, and everybody went home happy, as far as I could tell.
How fast do those go-karts go?
Quality of the engine and the size of the body in it, they can get up to about 30-something miles an hour.
So you could actually ride that around town are they street legal?
No, they're not street legal. I mean, they're so low to the ground. You get run over by some jag-off in a big old monster truck.
Yeah, I
suppose.
But,
I mean, they could... The guys that came with, we had like a mini car unit with us, and they got go-karts with new... basically, the body shape is a PT Cruiser.
Huh.
And burnouts with their cars, and they had really good brakes. Because they weren't running a formation, they were just kind of fucking around, which they don't normally get to do, but only half of them came, so they just kind of ad-lib shit, and they had a hell of a good time. The crowd ate that shit up.
Doing brake stands?
Well, a lot of times I don't know what it is about people just like getting high fives along the parade route by people in go-karts, and so formations, and you can't do that stuff because you always got to be paying attention to figure eights or whatever else that they're doing, and you can't interact with the crowd because you're always doing something. And so because they weren't running formations, they could just fuck around and play with the crowd, and people loved it.
You guys actually practice the formations and stuff?
Those guys do. They have to. There's always stories like when they bring in a new guy and walk through the formations. Just literally walk through it. And
sure.
Then they'll get in the cars and go through it slow, and then they'll start going up to parade speed. And yeah, I've met guys that every time they get into a car, and they have gone to other different mini car units, they have an infamous reputation for being the guy that always crashes, or they'll take a corner to balances off, and he'll basically flip his car on its side. Or he'll trade paint.
I'm picturing somebody running under like a semi and it bursting into flames, and some guy running around with his fez on fire. And...
No, that would be awesome, but no, there's usually no other cars on the road, and if there's like a vehicle in front or a vehicle in back, they always give them a lot of space.
And that's the most fun that I had doing.
They had very specific rules about no stopping for anything. Like marching bands could not stop to do like a formation or do a performance in front of the judges stand. They had to keep fucking moving.
Yeah, we had to do that.
Why
when I was in high school, we actually did the Orange Bowl parade of all things down in Florida for our band trip, and we were the only band that the high school kids played continuously for the whole 7-mile parade route. We were the only ones that actually did it because of our Nazi band director. Like even the college bands and the other professional ones were like, yeah, we take a break for a couple blocks, but we were pros. I think the most fun though that I ever had doing the parade was does Spam still do it? Do you know? Does Hormel?
I have no idea.
Well, one of my roommates' dad used to work for Hormel, and they would bring in this Model T, and we had little metal die-cast Spam cars. We had buckets of them that were in wrappers that we chucked into the crowd, which you can't do anymore. But we were actually throwing them in the windows of places where you go over that one bridge and just chucking them at people. And then at the end of it, actually, we had a great big-ass grill, and we were grilling up Spam burgers for everybody, which are much better than I would have ever expected. Now,
oh yeah, when you're drunk, I'm sure it's tasty as hell.
Oh, thanks to her dad, we had like an unlimited supply of Spam and Hormel chili at our house. Let me tell you, when you live with 3 girls and one other dude, and you're all eating Hormel chili, you lose any attraction that you have to the girls real fast.
How so?
When anybody eats that much Hormel chili, there's some after effects.
Yeah, fair enough. Like
you haven't. Well, I mean, once you're in a relationship, it's different. When a girl destroys a bathroom, like you're like, well, everybody does it. But when you're kind of like, hey, I kind of like this chick, and she blows up your bathroom, and you walk in there, and mother of God, then they just become like one of the gang at that point. They're just pals.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially if they can out.
When I was in college, my roommates for the year weren't going to be there for the summer, so they sublet their rooms out, and it was these 2 cousins and a friend of theirs. Oh God, they were slobs. They leave dishes in the sink until they were like growing fungus. I was wondering what the hell happened to them.
Well, we had the roommate of mine
living in a trailer park somewhere.
He actually became a cop, but he would pass out drunk with like a frozen pizza in my pizza oven, and we just used to take the charcoal disc out and literally use a hammer and nails and nail it to his door. Or he would he'd make tomato soup all the time and leave the rest of it that he didn't eat sit on the pot on the stove for days until it was moldy and green, and then we started buying pots and pans at Goodwill because we just ended up throwing so many of them out because they were so gross.
Was he a stoner or what?
No, he just would pass out. He'd get hammered, think it was a good idea to make food, and then pass out somewhere. Which, I mean, was okay for us because then we got to fuck with him. Are you getting back to Oktoberfest? What's your take on polka music? Fan or not a fan?
In the mood for it. It's kind of fun, but after a while, if if you're not really a musician, they all sound the same. I mean, they
Yeah,
literally all sound the same unless you could pick out the melody.
yeah. I mean, it's fun when everybody's absolutely drunk and listening to it because then you're not really poking, you're just kind of throwing each other around when you're dancing. It's kind of like a mosh pit to German music. But I did a wedding once where I had like an opening act. The dad of the bride was in a polka band, and they played for the first like 45 minutes of the wedding, and then I had to follow the polka band, which was odd.
Oh, Jesus.
Be like, yeah, all right, we got the polka done. Here's some ludicrous.
Remember when I was a kid going to wedding receptions, a lot of them were polka bands, because they just wanted some music to dance to. And granted, the parents were paying for this shit, or they probably knew somebody. That's usually what it is. It's like, oh yeah, I know somebody with a band. Whereas in our generation, I know somebody that's a DJ or has got a DJ equipment.
We've got to look it up. But there is a small radio station. It's somewhere in like southeastern Wisconsin, because I know people that have heard this guy that actually has a Sunday show that's called Polka Explosion. And he does updates on the bands touring the state and talks about like the history of polka and stuff like that. My nightmare was when I worked for the station here in town. I used to have to run a 4-hour pre-recorded polka show every Sunday morning. Then the Catholic,
to do a 2-hour polka show myself.
Then the Catholic Church ceremony, or Lutheran, I think it was Lutheran. I had to sit there and make sure that got on the air because it was rebroadcast from one of the churches in town, and they played it in a lot of the nursing homes. But I gotta tell you, if that polka show did not get on the air because of a technical issue or something like that, that was how I knew people were listening, because we got complaints of the ass. I don't think I got that many complaints about anything that ever happened on the top 40 station as I did the time that our transmitter froze up in the winter and the polka show didn't get on the air. We just had dead air for like 5 solid hours. Yeah. These people were vicious about it too.
They live for that, I guess.
What's our thing going to be when we get, to the age of the people that were listening? This is probably, we're talking 60s and 70s. Is it going to be weird playing like Move Bitch by Ludacris in a nursing home?
I don't know, but I still think people will be listening to like retro music, because most shit today is just
garbage,
not memorable.
No.
I mean, I don't want to sound like an old man, but a lot of stuff, it doesn't really have a melody or a good hook. It's just like, I listen to Taylor Swift. Okay, maybe I don't listen to the words enough, but I listen to the music, and there's nothing in there that sticks with me.
We're gonna get hate for this, but I really do think every song of hers, I can't differentiate between any of them. They're all kind of floaty and breathy, and sorry, Taylor, but I'm not a fan.
She probably wouldn't want us as fans.
It's that, and she looks too perfect too to me. Like, I think she's actually a cyborg. It's possible. Man, we are gonna get canceled now, I think.
Well, no one pays for this, so it's not like anybody's gonna like take away our funding.
We really do need to find some sponsors like that. Maybe I can ask that guy's Polka Explosion sponsors to get in on this. But I mean, I'm just thinking about like what's gonna be like if I make it to 8. I know, like, my grandfather listening to Glenn Miller, and stuff like that. But for me, it's like I'm gonna be listening to death metal or punk for Dead Kennedys in a nursing home.
Yeah, they're gonna be piping Tool through the nursing home.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You'll be blasting Tool, especially that one weird song of Tool's where it's just a bunch of screaming in German. And isn't it actually like a recipe for baking muffins or cookies or something like that?
Knowing those guys, yeah, probably. It's just they like to do a lot of weird shit, and somebody was always commenting about like the Gen Xers. The Gen Xer men can't wait for the next Tool album, or however long, number like 5-10 years it takes to come out.
I really think that as Gen X, we're turning into the forgotten generation, though. Like a lot of people are saying that we kind of fit. What is it? It's not.
I mean, we're basically tucked between the two most self-absorbed generations, on the planet.
Yeah, we're kind of.
I joked to somebody years ago. We take all the boomers and turn them into Soylent Green to feed the millennials.
So we've managed
Soylent Avocado toast.
Yeah, and we're the ones that are going to be taking care of the boomers. I, from personal experience, know that. Like, I've worked in nursing homes and stuff, and it's, oh my God.
Remember when COVID came out, I was listening to these people's conspiracy theories, and I'm like, here's my theory. This was basically created by the millennials to kill off the boomers to get them the fuck out of the way.
The scary thing is we're stuck in between, though, so we're not, I've been called a boomer before, and I'm 44. So, no, I'm not. But I'm not cool enough to be. I don't even want to be a millennial anyway. But no, we're just, I don't think anybody can really explain our generation other than there's a lot of self-loathing and apathy. And
well, our generation was the first to realize that the American dream was all bullshit because the boomers wouldn't give nothing up.
Yeah, and we were being lied to.
Gladly retired at 55, and we got through the fucking war.
Yeah, and the idea
go to
of
town.
Working,
now you got boomers that won't fucking quit.
Yeah, and then you got the idea of a dad works, mom stays home. Dad has a job working at Sears, like my grandfather did, and he could afford a house and a family of 5 kids. And that does not exist anymore. It just can't.
Nope.
I mean, when people talk, I'm never going to be able to buy a house. I know that, and I'm kind of fine with that though, just because I don't like to be tied down to anything. But yeah, we've managed to shit on Oktoberfest, Taylor Swift, baby boomers, polka music. Anything else we want to crap on today?
I don't know. Bad sushi.
You have a bad sushi experience recently?
Well, yeah, I just had some sushi now and it's very boring. I mean, it's, they put all this mayo orange glop on everything to kind of cover up the taste that there is no taste.
I will say the worst food poisoning I have ever had in my life was crab rangoons. There used to be a little tiny Chinese place by the one of the festivals, the one out by where Shakey's used to be, the pizza place.
Oh, out there?
Yeah, there used to be one out there, and this lady would make us, that ran it, would just make us unlimited huge crab rangoons, and I have never thrown up so hard. God. It was coming out my mouth and nose.
Oh, God.
I was leaning out the window of my car doing it. Actually, and it was while I was sitting in construction and they were putting down fresh, hot asphalt in the middle of the summer. I was in a car with no air conditioning. I pretty much wanted to die.
Wow, that's a great way to wrap up this episode, Mikey. Good thing we're running out of time.
Yeah, nothing like telling a story about... Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about Oktoberfest, we got to talk about throwing up and projectile vomiting.
Yeah, it's just like the streets weren't paved with the Technicolor yawn of thousands of people.
That was the most poetic ending to a Radio Mofo podcast ever.